Digital clock on the wall, and we're going to call the meeting to order. We have a full quorum except for Miguel, and he sends his regrets that he couldn't make it today because of a meeting he had, conflict. So move on to public comments. We have one member in the audience that is going to speak on other things, I guess. Yeah, this is just general public comments right now. We can speak to the two agenda items when you come up. Thank you, Burton. Moving on to consider the approval of the minutes. I was at the first one. I was not at the second one or the third. So I can vote on one of the three. Anybody have any, after reviewing them online before the meeting, anybody have any questions or concerns about the way the minutes are presented?
It's not at the third, so.
We should probably have since there were some absences, we should probably have a motion for.
Okay. Let's take the first one then. February 15th meeting I was at, so looking for move for approval on that.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Going to abstain on the next two, but I was looking for the date up there. You moved down. April 26th meeting. Looking for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second,
Second. I'm sorry, who made the motion? That was it.
all in favor? And moving on to the third, which is May 13th. Okay. How short was it? There you go.
That started when?
Yeah,
Wasn't that short?
We had breakfast tacos, so it was, you know.
Okay, do the, so three is enough? And so the motion and second need to come from those three?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Thank you. Second? Brant, thank you. All in favor? All right. The housekeeping is out of the way.
Okay, Commissioners, if you're ready, we'll move on to item 4.
Yes.
Jerry?
Oh,
No, it's just for all y'all. I thought you could just take a look at it and then pass it down. Okay?
I'll open the meeting for the zoning,
Public comments?
Yes.
for the zoning change on which property are we doing
This
right
one,
now?
the first one, item 4 is 6107.
No,
Brodie.
6107 Brodie Lane.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, Jerry. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioners, Jerry Westhoven, Development Services Coordinator. This case was initiated by the City Council on March 7th of this year when they passed a resolution initiating the zoning for 2 properties, this one as well as item number 5 on your agenda. This property, as I said, is at 6107 Brodie Lane. The city purchased the property in 2021 using watershed protection fund monies. A good portion of the site is in the floodplain. About half of it's in the critical water quality zone, about half of it's in the water quality transition zone. In January of this year, the City Council approved the Parks and Open Space Plan. This plan identified the city-owned property at 6107 Brodie as a possible location for a trailhead connecting to the existing trail system, as well as a site for environmental restoration and innovative stormwater management. The plan also recommended rezoning the property from its existing zoning as single-family to P or Parkland zoning district. I've included in the backup a copy of the relevant page from the Park and Open Space Plan. We have received the comments. We received 4 written comments that are in your backup. We've also received 1 additional written comment, as well as the 11 comments that we received on Open Town Hall, and those are the ones that you have in front of you. Staff does recommend the approval of the zoning change so to be in compliance with the Parks and Open Space Plan, as well as the fact that the intended use meets the purpose statement of the zoning district. And so with that, I'm available for any questions.
All right. At this time, we'll open it up to public comments. Burton, do you have a comment on this particular piece of property?
Am I on?
Is there?
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to say, I am in favor of making this parkland.
Okay. I did notice that, that you're more in favor of parkland than green space. And there's some talk of a trailhead here. Do you have any objection to some limited parking in there in the future?
I don't know how everybody feels about parking, where to put that, because I think that's a question for the people living nearby. It should be a lot of parking, because that kind of takes up too much land, but I don't personally would not mind some limited parking, because I think that we're interested in Sunset Valley and people coming here and enjoying the biodiversity that we have and being able to appreciate it from limited parking time.
Okay. And I believe
So-
most people are parking on Oakdale Drive right now and in front of your house, right? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, this property was identified as a possible, place where parking spots may, encourage to, people, visitors that enjoy the trails to not park in the, and on the neighborhood streets. But of course, this is just approving the zoning change. And so any, plan to install parking would, go through, city engineering. It is a sensitive site. Not only is it in the floodplain, but there's also a sinkhole. So, the parking lot would have to be built, away from that. But yeah, it has been located as a site where we can connect to the existing trails on the Manly Tract. So.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
Yeah, and what's the plan for the building?
There
house?
is right now, council approved, at the last council meeting, council approved the release of a RFB, request for bids, for demolition of the house at both 6107 and at 6401 Brodie Lane. Now, council did want, I think there's general consensus from like the Planning Environmental Committee, from council, that to remove the house at 6107 Brodie Lane. There was a little bit of concern because there really isn't a plan for 6401 Brodie, the property further south, the Galt property. So council asked that staff make the RFB, the request for bids, demolish just the one house versus two houses. Like, is there a, economical benefit to demolishing, both at once? Yes, yes. So, but yeah, so the house at 6107 Brodie, it's in bad condition. It has asbestos. It's, and the plan for the property is parkland, which would mean taking out the structure. So.
The sooner the better.
There is no possibility of sale for removal?
A council member looked into that, and she said she had no responses. She's a realtor, and so she thought that might be an idea, and there was no bites from that.
Okay.
So, yeah, especially that property or that site. Yeah, that would be hard to get out, and I think it's just so old that I think it's worth anything.
Okay.
May I speak?
Go ahead.
I like the idea of 6107 transitioning to parkland because it's directly adjacent to the Sunset Valley Nature Preserve. So it would make it a contiguous piece of property right there. It will provide great access for staff from Brodie and potential parking that we could possibly gate off at night in the future. With the parkland designation, it does allow for some impervious cover, so I think it's the appropriate zoning designation.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
How large is this piece of property?
Are you?
So it backs
Lisa
up,
says she thinks it's a little less than that.
but it backs up to the existing city property that has the trail system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would make it convenient to tie into.
Also, there is a connection there to Oakdale, is there not? Would it then, that little piece of green space in, down to Oakdale connects to it also?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I asked the question about parking because of that picture right there that looked like pretty extensive concrete parking lot.
You're referring to this picture here?
Yes,
That's just the illustration. Yeah, I mean, you know. I
that's
think it will
that's
be-
not a plan.
No, I think it will be a very,
Okay.
if there's a parking site, it will be minimal, given the challenges of this lot. So.
I have a question for staff. If we did a future parking lot there, and I know that's not the conversation today, would we require a water retention pond to treat, for treatment?
Right, it would just depend on the, the size and the scope and the location. So, given we wouldn't want to probably build it too far back into the property, but the problem is at the front of the property, I believe is, I'll have to pull it up on the map, is where is the critical water quality zone, I believe. So, yeah, there are challenges. So it'll have to be designed well, and yeah, so that'll.
The answer would be that the city will follow its own regulations.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Oh. Okay, so I don't see what you'd have to flip back to the agenda, but we'll close the hearing and then make a vote, I assume. All right, any further discussion before we close the hearing? All right, we will close the hearing then. And I would entertain a motion. I think that since the city owns the property, has directed the city management to pursue the parkland designation, and it seems like a logical thing to all of us to do that. And there's no objection from the public. There's a couple of, I guess that goes into the end of the record, that there are a couple of people that responded in written form that they were in favor of it. I would entertain a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So that takes us to our last item on the agenda, which is item 5. Again, on March 7th, the council passed a resolution, also directing the staff to initiate the zoning at 37th Lone Trail. In this case, from single-family residential to C, conservation district zoning. 2007, the city purchased this tract. Again, a large portion of this property is in 100-year floodplain. About 50% is in the water quality, critical water quality zone, probably about to meet the criteria in the Land Development Code for a zoning change, and therefore the staff recommends approval. Again, we received 4 written comments that are in your backup, 11 comments on Town Hall, and 1 additional written comment, and all the comments that we received were in favor of the zoning change. I'd also like to add for this one, as well as the case before, we will, when we work on the comprehensive plan, update the future land use map if the council approves both these zoning cases. When we do the comp plan, we'll update the future land use map to reflect the new zoning. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
All right, I believe we may have, public comments now. Is it, anybody like to speak to this one?
Okay, Burton Pearson, 39 Pillow Road. I wanted to tell you something that I actually found shocking and interesting, and I need to do more research on this, and I will, and talk to people about it. But I learned in my reading recently that there's a tremendous amount of, I guess you would say, financial opportunity in bird watching. I don't bird watch, and I didn't realize about this, and so I looked through some things and began to learn these facts, and I'll just mention them to you. They were in my other comments, but it was really startling to me, and I'll have to look this up. The University of Washington did a study there for Seattle and found out that even common birds in backyards and parks, people were buying nests for them, they were feeding these birds, there was some bird tourism, et cetera, but these are just common ones, not particularly rare ones. The university, with their study, said it was bringing in $120 million to the economy of Seattle. And I had no idea that just shocked me, and I want to follow up with that more. I also was shocked by this. Many rural U.S. communities are also exploring bird watching as a possible alternative to traditional, but declining extractive industries. Now, extractive industries, as you know, make a lot of money, even in decline. So that shocked me, that bird watching could do that much. Bird watching is on the rise. Other studies have shown that bird watching tourists spend more money than other tourists when they go to a particular area. The prairie at Fort, and I think that's because generally they're from a more upper, kind of medium to upper income people. The prairie at Commons Ford in Austin, this is a 40-acre restored prairie, has 274 species of birds there. Now, because it's a prairie, many of these will be indigenous just to the prairie, okay? Bird watchers are attracted to this site even in the winter months because there are birds that come in and are in the prairies during the winter. So you've got year-round people coming to watch birds at that site, which gives us a year-round amount of income from those people coming in. Since prairie habitat is so rare, bird has got to go where the habitat is, and if we have that habitat here, then we will be listed in Central Texas as one of the bird watching locations. And what we have, we can get Audubon Society to do surveys for us, and then we'll be advertising for Sunset Valley. Come here and see these birds. And the people that go to Commons Ford will then also can come on over here and see that as well. So it gives us free advertising. And Audubon Society is certainly willing to help us with this. And there are some grants available, but I'm still working on all that stuff. So thank you very much, Burton Pearson, 39 Pillow.
Thank you, Burton.
Thank you.
It is very true that that birds are a big deal. We're right in the middle of the flyway, and you get them spring and fall. I've recently been made aware of Dripping Springs, and each of their parks they have a bird blind and feeders so that people on their walkways can stop and take a break and watch the birds for a while. What do we go to next? Further comments from the commission?
It's an interesting idea with regard to the bird watching, because I thought part of the attitude from a lot of the people in that neighborhood was not to have traffic and visitors. Seems contra to what the neighborhood was desiring that the result of this being designated as parkland. So I mentioned that because that's, maybe you tell them that, maybe they didn't get what they want.
Yeah.
So,
This is on the former rodeo arena land, is that true? And
I understand it's old Fowler.
is that before your time?
It's a little before my time. Probably not my time, but before my time at the city of Sunset Valley. Yes.
Former mayor, I can't remember his name now.
Is it Fowler?
Fowler,
Bud-
yes.
Yeah, Bud Fowler, yeah.
I'm
Bud
learning.
Fowler, yeah. And part of it goes across the creek, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. And is that joined to the 40 acres or?
Yes, it does connect the existing city parkland as well.
Yeah, the South Hills, and, I mean, if we're being frank, it's already a trail.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, it's already, the use is already, and just to Commissioner Reeds, so the designation, the zoning designation that City Council recommended and that's recommended in the Parks and Open Space Plan is C, conservation, which is the most restrictive of the public, of the parks and green space. We have 3 designations, so it's the most restrictive, meaning it can have the least amount of development and amenities, as opposed to say like, P parkland.
The plan did call for a, quote, small trailhead.
So with,
I just wanted to say something about that. I think when we're dealing with a property that is 72% or 71.9% floodplain, it's probably best to use it for flood mitigation and have the more restrictive in the section that is floodplain. I mean, is that an option to do in the floodplain section of the other property? We can't divide the zoning, right? I mean, we already passed that, so.
Yeah, the zoning, what the preference, the best practice is to zone it make a decision about the zoning relevant to the use of the property, as well as the site development standards, and then to apply your code with regard to regulations regarding water quality transition zones, critical water quality zones, floodplains, and to use that as the guidance for, what's allowed from a site plan standpoint. But to divide the zoning, into different categories, I think creates problems. You have to survey, you have to do all sorts of other things. So I think it'd be better just to say, okay, well, this is the zoning district we want, and then we'll apply the regulations that are already there.
just to make it clear, is the trail system that's behind Lovegrass and that area there, would it connect into Lone Oak through that property?
It already does.
Yes.
It's currently
I didn't-
connected to the South Hills Conservation Area it's the part that's behind Lovegrass is the Sunset Valley Nature Preserve right over there. But on the other side is the South Hills Conservation. And so that's conservation land, and this is adjacent to the conservation land. It leads into it.
So here's the trail.
Is that an
exists on
existing trail?
It's an
Yes.
existing trail, yeah, so,
Okay, because I thought there wasn't one there.
no, there's
There's
actually,
actually a
is.
small trailhead there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
So, we're kind of catching up with this zoning change, making, official something that's been unofficial for a long time. But yes, you can connect to pretty much any of the trails. So yeah, if you walk down Lone Oak, you can
Get on the trail.
get on the trail, and then you can go either to the South Hills, or you can go to the Sunset Valley Nature area.
If you can get across the creek without killing yourself.
Yeah, don't go after a big rain.
Is
Or wear
this,
water shoes.
is the small access between the two houses, is that going away now? And now that-
gone.
That's
now-
gone. That's
Is it
gone,
gone?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there also is a great new trail, if anyone, I've been taking it a lot. Used to, I'd take Lone Oak, but now I'm going down to Reese and Valley Creek Park. There's a trail there now, so, which is a nice trail.
It's
Our
parking.
newest addition.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's nice. It definitely meets the criteria, and this we would have had 2 different rounds of public comments collected originally when the land was purchased for mitigation and for watershed protection. Later, it was, the funds were transferred out of the watershed fund to help fund City Hall, and it qualified then for watershed protection. But the original set of documents where the public was, we had a public hearing date back to when the land was originally purchased, and all the comments were in favor of purchasing it for conservation. And then we had another round of comments in the Parks and Open Space where the majority of comments were in favor of protecting the land.
Any other further comments? Close public hearing then, and go on to entertain a motion.
So moved.
In a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Thank you, Commissioners. That's the last item on your agenda.
All right. I believe that's the end of our agenda. Can't do anything else but
Nope.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In
Second?
favor.
All in favor?
Yes.
Exactly 30 minutes. Great job.
Thank you. I have somewhere to be at
30
7.
minutes.
That was amazing.
be somewhere when?
At 7. That was